This is the Worship Team Training Podcast with your host and training director, Brannon Dempsey. Worship Team Training provides live workshops and online resources to help inspire, create, and transform the leading of worship. Now, here's your host, Brannon Dempsey.
Hey, welcome. It's great to be back. I'm so glad that you guys are here on the Worship Team Training Show. I'm Brannon Dempsey, your host. And who am I? What do I do? I'm a follower of Jesus and happen to be CEO of worshipteamtraining.com. And I have a great time with a great load of staff here. And we just have a good time making music. And so we invite you to pull up a guitar, a keyboard, whatever. And we're going to go through Joy to the World and learning how to make this song fresh and brand new all over again by the help of our awesome friend, Scott Hussey, shout out over at guidetracks.co, who's put together some terrific tracks for us. And who are these broadcasts for? What do we do? If you're listening right now, watching by Periscope, listening by our Hangout and our podcast through iTunes and Spreaker, we say thank you, and we ask that you guys go ahead and follow us, and we appreciate all the likes, all the hearts, and thanks so much for that. So now that we're back, we're going to show you this tutorial again to the full. If you're listening, also you get the pleasure of listening to this by audio. We do our broadcast Tuesdays and Thursdays, by the way, at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So let's go ahead and get right to it. You can find a link at worshipteamtraining.com/Joy to the World tutorial. So Jubilee, what's going on? She's coming at us by Periscope. Good to have you today. And we're here to talk about, no matter if you're a worship team, symphony, two-person duo in your own worship team, there's always something for us to learn about how we make music. And what does that mean by being a musician, being a singer? I've addressed this a lot just before the Thanksgiving break in terms of how do we make music better that's easier, and also how do we have a fun time doing it. So we're looking at Christmas music, and let me just ask you guys, are you already tired of Christmas music? Maybe some of you are getting into it. An interesting thing is that I spoke with some worship leaders recently that were just telling me they can't wait for Christmas to be over. Is that you? Maybe not. Maybe you're just getting into the holiday of things. And we talked about that this past Tuesday on our broadcast. We talked about the journey to the manger. You can refer to that going back to worshipteamtraining.com and looking at our Tuesday post, which is also entitled Joy to the World. And so today we wanted to talk about the music of Joy to the World. This was put out by Chris Tomlin back in 2009 with the help of Ed Cash. We send a big thank you to worshiptogether.com for allowing us to do the music, Ryan House Publishing, Vamus Publishing, Six Step Music, and also, of course, guidetracks.co with awesome Scott Hussey on the faders and all the music production here. So I'm going to go through this track, and I'm using guitar. What I've done is I just brought up my rig here through Logic, and I'm going to go ahead and just play through the track on guitar, show you a little bit, talk a little bit about the music, and then also 21 ways that you can make your music that much more brighter, that much more better. Okay, and we're going to use this music as an example. So here we go. I got the track loaded right here, and we're going to count it off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the guitar part. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of demonstration of this track right here, Joy to the World. And all we've done is that we've just kind of taken the whole tune a lot forward and put it on its head. Simply, we just put a rock beat to it. A lot of you have already heard this kind of version of this song. We've just tweaked it a little bit further. If you're brand new to this kind of arrangement, then, I mean, this is probably opening up a whole new can of worms or ideas for you. So that's what we're hoping to achieve for you listening to this, and just to kind of get a better handle on what it is musically that can be done here with this song. So simply, I've just taken the liberty of, through my playing, I'm not trying to add a lot. I'm not trying to, overplay or to make a lot of noise. I'm just, trying to do like the very beginning, joy to the world, and just trying to keep the eighth notes here. Thanks, Hesha. A friend on Periscope. So by keeping something like that very simple and basic, I'm not covering up the vocal line. I'm not getting in the way of the band. Again, what I like to do is isolate. We'll play that section again with the track that I was just doing, and I'll show you more closely how that guitar part that I was just playing, how that fits in to what's going on with the rest of the world here. So all I'm going to do is isolate the drum track, and then I'm going to isolate the bass track. And I'm just going to play along with it in guitar. So you can hear the difference of what it would sound like just 3 instruments versus a whole band. Here's your B minor. The solo here. Okay, so right there, just enough. Thanks for that, guys. You guys liking it on Periscope. Glad you like that. So simply, I'm just trying to keep things simple. I'm not trying to play all that I can. And I think that's kind of like sometimes in the back of the minds of the musicians and singers, that's kind of like our quest, is to do as much as we can to get out all the licks, get out all the cool notes. And simply when we do that, we're actually not making the right choices of the fewer notes that we need to play, the ones that are most important. So that's why I'm coming to you in this broadcast right here, is just to talk a little bit about that, and then how we can turn music around to make it more creative. Good friend Abigail Weaver on Periscope. Thanks so much, Abigail. Glad that you're here. Thanks for watching. Miss you. I'll be getting with you soon. Fantastic worship leader, actually going through our mentoring program, by the way. And you can check that out back at worshipteamtraining.com/mentoring. So let's get back to the music here. The 21 things, I'll just tell you real quick, the 21 things to make your music great. Number 1 is groove, and that's simply what I was just doing right here. I gave you the version of playing with 3 instruments, bass guitar, and drums. Now, if I took those out and just played everything like this, okay, so that's good by itself, but that's a whole wall of sound. So how do I fit in as an instrumentalist? And that's what I'll show you. I'm just playing guitar. So there, I'm just kind of jamming around, but you get the idea. I mean, I can take a solo very easily, provided that there's also just 3 instruments playing. But I'm not trying to do a lot. I am trying to play a little bit and pieces here and there to kind of give you the full flavor as I'm teaching. But if I was in a normal band situation, I'd probably just be laying back playing nothing either but rhythm or just a little bit of lead. I would not try to do both, because at least I would give a lot of space in between those sections that I play, because then it can get a little bit cumbersome. It can be a little bit too much within the music. But groove, that's what I was just showing you. Just drums and bass, that is your engine of every song. That's your groove. It's what the bass guitar puts out, their line that they lay down, and then also what anchors by the drums or percussion. Those two together is what makes your groove. It doesn't need to be a riff. It can just be as simple as a drum beat and a straight ahead rock pattern with some type of a root on the bass, and that would be fine. So you can do that. You can do melodic runs, but I would just do whatever is most capable for your bassist and drummer. I wouldn't try to have them do anything complicated. Just make sure, this kind of brings us to our next point, which I'm going to go here. But you want to keep the verses simple, is what I'm saying. Now, point number 2 is never underestimate the power of intros and choruses. Intros is because it gives the key idea to the worshiper of what song is going to be done. Now, they may not know the whole song, but by you starting the song strong, like what we did in this broadcast, it picks your ears up, and you know that there's something coming. And then the chorus is that big refrain. That's where everyone sings. That's the most memorable part of the song. Number 3, don't be afraid to incorporate drum loops. That's what I was just showing you here. Now, this is a whole track you can get at guytracks.co by Scott Hussey. He produced this. He's the guy who actually produced a lot of the Loop community stuff that's out there. Really awesome dude. Awesome company, by the way, Loop Community. And we've done a lot of things with playing with the music. But the most important thing that I found was that playing with drum loops will add color. It will add texture to your songs. It's not always needed. For a long time, I played without drum loops and clicks, and the music is just fine. But just depending on the church and where you're at, and also what your band can achieve musically, drum loops can be a great option. I found this to be very helpful, even just within my practice time. So maybe your band doesn't play with loops or a click. You can still benefit from using tracks like this for practice time, and they really help improve my skills. Or if your band does use them, then great. So number 3 is don't be afraid of using the loops. Number 4, Mika Arsta, what's going on? Artista, I hope I got that right. And all you guys following us right now, thanks so much. Following us on Periscope, thanks for coming in, watching. We're doing this live. If you guys would slide over real quick and just hit the follow button. And thank you guys listening through iTunes and Spreaker on our audio podcast as well. That's live too, so thank you guys. All right, so number 4, about the groove, I was going to say make sure that the kick drum and the bass guitar are locked in together. That is one of the most important things that I see and hear in working with worship teams, is that their bass guitar player and their drummer are not on the same planet. It's kind of like, Venus and Mars, and somewhere the worship leader and the band are Earth, kind of in the middle. You want to make sure that as a bass player, as a drummer, that you're watching everything what's happening. Kentucky Drummer is on here right now with Periscope, and he could tell you the same thing. We're talking about locking in the groove between kick and bass guitar. It's quintessential to your worship team. As you listen to this example right here that I've got loaded up, just listen to the groove part between kick and drum. Do you hear the bass guitar right with it? All right. Let's bring it back to a verse. Now you can hear it clearly. Just very simple lines on the bass. So that right there, by keeping things anchored down, really helps a lot, just that kick and that bass player. So when I say kick, I'm meaning the bass drum. That's a technical term. It's like a slang term we use. We say kick in the studio because we don't want to confuse bass guitar and bass drum. So when you say the word kick, that's what that is. So yeah, kick and bass is essential. Thanks for that, Kentucky Drummer. Diddy Duddy Brute, what's going on? Joining us also on Periscope. Yeah, I mean, if I am a drummer or if I'm a bass player, I want to pay attention to what the other guys are doing. I want to pay attention to what meter, pulse, time, and groove, how that's coming together. So if you're a worship leader or you're maybe the music director of your worship team or whatever, I would sit down with both your drummer and your bass player and have them play and just listen. And by doing that and giving some pointers of maybe what you hear would help. But this is provided that your drummer and bass player are good caliber musicians. And if they're not, this would also be helpful for you just to sit in and listen to what they do so that you can provide some good pointers. Kentucky Drummer says, lay in the pocket and don't overplay. Absolutely, so that other instruments can add color. Well said. Thanks for that. Yeah. And then, as a worship leader, it's good to familiarize yourself with bass and drums. And, there are worship leaders out there that may not care as much. They may not know all the technique that's involved between those two instruments. But if I didn't know that and I'm the worship leader, I would want to sit down and listen to what both these guys are doing. So that way I can be more familiar with their approach and how they play. So that way, when I'm in a rehearsal setting, I can give better guidance to what's happening. And plus, I have a better understanding. And the same thing happens with other musicians. They begin to appreciate you because you've taken an interest in them. So I kind of got off point here. I'm sorry about that. We have a lot to cover here, so I want to make it quick. So that was the fourth point, was to make sure that the kick and bass are locked in. Fifth point, out of the 21 points to make your music better, the fifth point is the keyboard players invest in your sounds. Look, if you have even something like a Casio keyboard, but if you got MIDI hookups on the back or USB, you can open yourself up to a brand new world of synths, sounds, different kinds of programs that can run on both PC and, of course, Mac. I use Mac, and we use MainStage a lot because they're packed with hundreds and thousands, millions of sounds. I mean, it's unlimited what you can create. And I also have Logic here, so you can do the same thing with Logic. But if you are a pianist or keyboard player and you're like, hey, computers are not my thing. In fact, I only like to pay my bills online or jump on the internet and get mail, and that's it. Well, be a little bit more familiar with what your keyboard in combination with a computer can do. And all you need to do is just do some Google searching and YouTube and look at what the back end of your keyboard can hook up to. As far as if it's a MIDI, USB, you can go to your music store or someone else in another church who knows about keyboards and computers and ask them, and maybe visit their rehearsal and see what they do. But you'll be amazed of how many sounds you can achieve by just tapping into your laptop. You never know. So that's another point. Number 6, intermix the percussion and also the textures within your band. So if you got a percussion player, if you don't, that's why loops can be a really good additive to what you do. Just adding in a simple tambourine part can make all the difference. I mean, if I have this, I do have it called up. And so if I'm playing with the groove right here, right? And you hear that tambourine? Okay, so by adding something like that very lightly can make a huge difference, even if it's just a person that you can teach just playing shaker. I mean, I've done a lot with worship bands that I work with across country that maybe they don't have another percussionist, but they have somebody else in the band that can hold rhythm. So they can play shaker, tambourine. I mean, just a little bit goes a long way is all I'm saying. So moving on, drummers, points 7, 8, and 9. So that's 3 of them. Drummers, most that I know always carry and travel with 2 snares. So you can get a lot out of the kit by changing up the snare, changing up the pitches, retuning. That's number 8 point, tuning your kick, maybe a bit higher, maybe a little lower. Rick, thanks so much. Rick Costa on the program. Thanks for coming in, man. Good to see you here on Periscope. Good to see you, bro. So please, yes, we're hitting with this song right now with Joy to the World and Brittany, what's going on? We got a lot of people coming in on Periscope. Thanks so much for that. Swipe and invite, let people know what's up. So again, points 7, 8, and 9 goes to drummers. So drummers use different varieties of pitches, tuning of the heads, toms, snares, and bass. What's up, Brittany? Good to see you guys. And also making sure that you can also try different styles and sizes of cymbals. Change out those cymbals. If maybe you've been bored for a while, go ahead and add in a second crash or maybe a dark crash or a light crash or whatever. There's different ways that you can change it up. And then also the last point, this is point number 9 for drummers, don't abuse, don't overuse, your drums. And also make sure that you do something, keep it simple, like, changing your drum heads. We figure like a good rule of thumb is maybe once a year. It depends on how much you play. Like guitar players, they may change their strings about maybe, once every 2-3 weeks or every week. I change mine about every other week. It just depends on how much you play. The same thing with drums, but a good rule of thumb is about once a year. So anyway, that's your points right there for drummers. I'm moving on to 10, use good dynamics within the band. I mean, I'll go back to this verse and I'll show you what I'm talking about by dynamics, because dynamics is that's a huge part in playing music. So if I get this track ready, again, Joy to the World. I want to bring the whole band back in so you can get a better idea. So you see what I'm doing there on the verses, I'm just keeping everything down. Just keeping it simple, just eighth notes. I mean, if I was a drummer, it'd be no different. I'm just keeping time. Bass player, you're just holding the line down. As a singer, I would do the same thing. So that brings me in, again, to talking about the importance of dynamics, soft, medium, loud volumes. Say the loud volumes for the chorus, bring the lows and mediums into the verses, maybe even the bridge. You can back down the bridge, make it soft again. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can paint a picture with music that it's just incredible by using a little bit of volume, a little bit of good technique. Point number 12, that brings me to another idea, is, and you guys type me in your ideas, just let us know what's up if you're watching the broadcast or you're listening back by the podcast, and go ahead and just type in your comment, ideas that you may have or questions. So one thing that comes to mind for me when making great music is maybe not even using the whole band. Maybe let the one song being start out by just one single instrument. Try it. That's one of your biggest tests as a musician or a singer, is to not jump right in and play or sing, right? But to hold back. I mean, are you brave enough? Just asking the question, are you brave enough to let your pianist play just the entire verse by herself or himself? Same thing with the guitar player, just the acoustic guitar only. Before you as a drummer come in, can you wait a full 16, 32 bars? I mean, I know guys that, man, they're just itching like with hives before the chorus breaks in. But that's the whole beauty about making music, is that you want it to tell a story. You want to stretch things out. You want to make sure that things are being stacked and they're being built to tell a good story. That's the whole point. So 13, point number 13. What's up, San Somal? Good to see you. Point number 13, I'm talking about 21 ways that you can make your music better. And we're using the song Joy to the World because it's Christmas, and we're updating that song. So point number 13, avoid doubling parts. Now, I'm not a proponent of, not doing it so much, but I'm saying just be careful. I mean, if you got two lead guitar players, it may be better to let one have the lead and let the other one play for something else. Rick's giving all the hearts here. Thanks for that, Rick. Now, if I'm if I'm pianist, and I'm playing a lead line, I want to stay out of the guitar player's way. So that's kind of what I'm getting at when I say be careful about not having two instruments double the same part in a melody line, or even if the pianist or the guitar player is playing the same thing with the vocals are singing. That also could be problematic. You want to keep things divided up because if you start playing the same notes, same register for a period of over 4 or 5, you start stretching out to 8 bars, 16 bars, it starts to have this static sound, and it becomes numbing to the ears, and it can get problematic for the rest of the band probably. Number 14 out of 21 is avoid playing every note. Like just here what I was just showing you what to do, and I'll break this down even further, just going back to the bass and drums. And let's say we start with the beginning of the song again. And notice I don't have to jump into everything that is being played. Now that's the intro of the song, right? I got my bass and drums going. And so here's the verse. So that's just another idea. Again, I don't want to get too carried away, but you saw that I was just keeping the mutes and then let it ring, and then when I get to that B minor 7, I can let that ring out a little bit further over what's being played. So that's the beauty in not having to, strumming everything to death. I mean, you can do that, but what kind of creativity are you speaking into the music? All right, let's move on. That brings me to point number 15 with guitar players. Hey, for an idea, I did this past week, and it revolutionized my sound, my whole tone this entire week. My audio tech engineer just said, hey, how about you just change out one pedal? And I'm like thinking, well, yeah, but I got my whole rig. I really don't want to do that. And he just went down below and unplugged it for me and just stuck in another pedal and plugged it back in, and he said, play. I played it, and it was different, but then I started to like it. And it was like, wow, this is something I normally wouldn't do. But the fact that I took his idea and ran with it, it became a better idea than what I had. So I'm actually incorporating that in my set. What he gave me was a gate pedal, and so he tweaked the dials, and I got it in my rig right now. That's what you're hearing. What's up, Kenny? Good to see you, bro, on Periscope. So that's what I did. I changed out, and I just used I have a new gate pedal now with my whole rig, and it's just, it's cleaned up the sound. It just sounds amazing. So change out a pedal or two. It's not going to hurt. Also, if you have old amps, check out the speakers. Maybe a speaker needs to be changed out. After 10, 20, 30 years, your speaker's probably dying for a brand new clothing item to wear. Let's put it that way. So number 16, don't undervalue the need for frequent string changing. I kind of talked about that, but also good tuning. So many worship bands, when they start playing the songs, it's like tuning is an afterthought. You have to, like if you're a singer, you got to warm up. You got to use your voice. Same thing. If you're a drummer, when's the last time that you tuned and pitched your drums? Same thing with the guitar players. So there you go. Number 17 for vocals, try to hear the whole song through the church's point of view. So when I'm picking out music, I'm trying to imagine all of who is singing in the church, and are they in the Spirit? Is the Holy Spirit able to move through them, or am I making just a lot of noise? So I try to place myself back in the back of the room, like when I'm playing or if I'm leading worship, I try to imagine myself being in the back row of the church and just thinking, what would a worshiper, what would a lost person hear? What would it be pleasing to them? Yes, we're here to glorify God. That's our number one priority. But how are we making our music shareable, right? How are we edifying, rather, to our church body? Point number 18, unify your heart. So that means humility. If you're a person that has a tough time receiving constructive criticism or any criticism at all, you're not going to grow as a musician or a singer. Mentors over me that have taught me have always come alongside and said, hey, Brandon, what you're doing is great, but if you really want to get better at this one thing, you need to change this, or you need to look at that. This could be the most healthy thing that you can ever have in your life, is just to sit back and say, okay, just like the audio technician that changed out my pedal. He came and was bold enough to do it, but I also had to be humble to just let him and not say, no, you can't touch this. You can't touch my rig. You can't mess up my sound. But as a leader, what better way than for me to invite that to happen and then to share in that opportunity to empower him, but then it also makes me a better player. So I've had a lot of musicians over the past 2 weeks comment on our site and some articles that we've done regarding piano studies and everything. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about, hey, I'm really not down for people critiquing me because I feel like I've studied all these years or whatever. And I think that being in a worship band teaches you a lot. And I know I don't know everything when I step into any musical setting. By the way, I started out playing orchestral music and choir, and I've done all that before I did rock and roll, and I still do it. And so the first question I ask, if I'm playing in an orchestra, singing in a choir, or leading a worship contemporary rock band, whatever, my first question is, what's my role? And am I able to learn in that role? Because I talk a lot about how limiting your playing can beautify the music, and that is a pianist. Like if you instead of using both hands back and forth, I'm not saying that you can't use all your talent and skill. I'm just saying that you learn how to channel and harness it in a way that complements the very band that you're playing with. The same thing goes for a lead guitar player. You wouldn't want a lead guitar player playing just lines and shredding all over the music, would you? It would be the same way as a drummer doing that same thing as well. So we want to complement music. If you watch a symphony, you see the strings and hear the strings come in. The brass comes in, they go back out. The woodwind sections, they come in and out. I mean, everything has a breath, an ebb, and a flow. A worship contemporary band is the same thing. So that's all I'm saying right there. Number 19, tighten up the vocal line. So singers, make sure that you are singing on pitch, right diction. You don't need to use hard T's and S's and P's and that kind of thing. But what I'm saying is that, watch how you sing with the enunciation of the words, but also watch the syllables and the rhythms of how you sing them. If you put 4 or 5 people on a mic, you're asking for murder. If everybody is singing off tempo, a nanosecond behind, trust me, it makes a big difference. Points number 20, don't let your singers oversing. So we're doing, joy to the world, the Lord is come. So I'm singing at a level that's audible, but I'm not, joy, I'm not trying to overpower the other singers around me. And at the same time, your church wants to sing with you too. They don't want to be sung at them. They want to sing with you. So anyway, sorry for that delay there. So point number 21, the last point of 21 things that you can do to make your music better. And again, thanks for joining us here on the broadcast on Periscope and also on our podcast. Thank you so much. Work your transitions. Work the transitions between song to song. It will pay off huge. It doesn't matter if you may say, yeah, but I don't modulate a lot of keys in our service. That's fine. But just watch the transitions from one song to the next, make them smooth. I let one instrument do it. If it's the pianist, I let our pianist do it, or the guitar player, I let them do it. The whole band trying to, transition the song, if they're very good, great. But if you have struggling musicians, it may help you to let them lay out and to let the stronger musicians fill in those gaps and make it stronger and watch those transitions. So there you have it. There's 21 points to help make your music better. I hope that this inspires you as we move into what we're already in Christmas, and we're actually in our second week. We're going to be celebrating Advent. I hope that this enriches your creativity for making better music for your Christmas services. And if you want to find out all the good stuff, and hey, we got a book for you. All you need to do is go back to worshipteamtraining.com, and you'll find our our subscription button that's on the upper right-hand corner. Just hit that, and then you're able to follow us. You get weekly newsletters, and you get the free ebook, and also new announcements. We got our brand new published book coming out by Faith Life Logos Bibles. We're very, very excited about this. It's going to probably release next week. It's called The Gift and the Giver, and you can look at the preview back at worshipteamtraining.com as well. Anyway, guys, love y'all. Thanks so much for coming out, and we'll see you back next time. Next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard is when we will be here to give you another broadcast. Berto, thanks so much on Periscope. Appreciate that, bro. God bless you too. Rick Costa, as always, man. Great friends here on Periscope. You too can follow us on Periscope and also Facebook Live. So make sure that you go back to worshipteamtraining.com to see all that we have to offer. And we'll also be popping up every now and then on Periscope. I want to be coming back at you with some more things as well. So see you there. I may see you on Snapchat. I'll see you back at Worship TT. Love you guys. Have an awesome day, and God's blessings to you. Bye.
This has been a Worship Team Training broadcast and digital production with your host and training director, Brannon Dempsey. Worship Team Training provides live workshops and online resources to help inspire, create, and transform the leading of worship. We'll see you again right here on worshipteamtraining.com.